To honor the last season of Games of Thrones, I decided to make this special video to show you how to learn the languages of the series. Know them and love them. These languages are, of course, dothraki and valyrian. I have like this image in my head of Jason Momoa speaking dothraki, and then Emilia Clarke talking to him, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're so hot together speaking this hot language. Is dothraki even a hot language? I don't think so. But it's very interesting to me. So no, like I really think that like Jason Momoa, it's the hottest when he speaks dothraki. If you're here and you think the actors just speak gibberish, well, you're wrong. Like dothraki and valyrian are full developed languages, like with grammar and everything, and they were created by David J. Peterson, and he was like hired in the first season of the show. He created the language like entirely from scratch. He had like a few phrases, like the two languages. He had like a few phrases, some names, and he just took that and created something like really amazing. Like I think he really created something special here. Some people even say like it's the best fictional language since like Elvish, which if you know anything about constructed languages, like Elvish is like the grandfather of all fictional or fantasy languages. So Valyrian and dothraki are fully developed languages. They have like grammar, exceptions. They have evolved even as the series goes further. So it's very, very interesting to see how these languages are like fully developed languages. Like learning one of these languages is no different to learning like Spanish or French. And I think if you want to learn High Valyrian or dothraki, you have to know from the communities that came before them. So really like other communities of fictional languages, you have Klingon from Star Trek, you have of course all of the Elvish languages, which is like an insane world, and you also have Na'vi from Avatar. So really like knowing how these communities work will help you develop a new community in High Valyrian or dothraki or Games of Thrones fictional languages. There's already a lot of people learning these languages. There's like their material for learning is fairly new, so there's like still a lot to learn from the other communities. So how to learn this language? First of all, you have to really take in consideration the culture of the language. It is created in a fictional world. So for example, in Valyrian, words like dragons and phrases like "all men must die" are like basics in the language, which are not basics in any other language. So really you have to know like everything that's going on, like more about the Valyrian people, more about the dothraki community, and so on. So if you're like a super Games of Thrones fans, you got this covered, like you know the culture. It's just like if you are kind of new into this but you just find the language interesting, maybe like me, you'll have to like watch the series and just like really get involved in everything that goes on within this magical world. I would also recommend you to find the inspiration behind it, and to find the inspiration behind it you have to find the man behind it, and that is, as I said before, David J. Peterson. He has a lot of interviews, books, blog posts, etc, 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 and he will tell you everything about how the language was created. For example, he created High Valyrian as like old-timey language. So it's kind of like what Latin was in the medieval Europe. So it's like this formal language that nobody really speaks outside of a classroom or formal setting. So that's like High Valyrian, and then you have like Vulgar Valyrian. So these are the derivations of it, and it's very interesting. And then for dothraki, he actually got inspired in other languages, and these languages are Estonian, Inuktitut, Turkish, Russian, and Swahili. These are languages that have a lot of history and come from very long ago. Turkish, for example, is an isolated language, so that will also help to create something that's very unique. So he got inspired by these languages, which means that maybe the sounds or the way the words are made have something from these languages. So if you speak one of these languages, you're lucky. Now focus on the pronunciation, and like Galangers, aka the language creator people, like they really don't like it when you mispronounce it, and some may laugh, some may not. I mean, it's because they spend like I don't know, like weeks or even months finding the right sound and creating the right sound. Like, it's a lot of work, guys. Like, it's so much work. So they want everyone to pronounce it correctly and to have like to respect the accent and everything, and to understand that there are different dialects even. So it's they might not like it if you mispronounce it, so really focus on the pronunciation. But it's like not even so much the conlangers, the creators, but actually the community. They're so intense sometimes when you mispronounce something, and it's like, dude, I'm just here trying. I don't speak perfect, so I'm just getting there. And so just really focus on the pronunciation, and people will be like 100 times nicer to you. Anyway, the dothraki and valyrian pronunciation, it's not really that difficult. I don't find it. I'm a native Spanish speaker, so I really don't find it difficult. Maybe I'm just pronouncing everything wrong. But I think it's easier than other fictional or fantasy conlangs like Klingon, for example, which is like almost impossible to pronounce. And for resources, you have for High Valyrian, you have the Duolingo course. It was developed by David J. Peterson. And for dothraki, you have the Living Language Dothraki, which is a book also created by the man himself. And then you have this website, I think it's called dothraki.org. And they have like absolutely everything that you need to know, and YouTube videos and everything. So just like my advice with fantasy languages in general is to really like get inside the community and find people who like to learn it too, and share resources, and just like talk to them in the language and just practice it and learn it from them. And you have to consider that it's going to be a tiny bit harder to learn one of these languages because there's not so many resources out there. It's not like Spanish where you have like 1,000 million shows and music and everything. This is like a very small, not very popular language to learn, so the resources are very limited. It's not like you can just watch the show and learn it. Like, there's, for my taste, not enough dothraki or High Valyrian in this show. Like, if it was for me, I would make it entirely in those languages, I think. So learning the languages of Games of Thrones is definitely attainable. It's fun to do. The community behind it, it's a great community. It's quite a big community too for a conlang. But like any other language, you have to dedicate some time every day to learn it, and you have to find people to talk to. Otherwise, it'll just be passive learning, and if you really want to speak it, you need to practice it. It's not different learning any of these languages than other languages. You just have to focus differently into culture and the way the language is structured. But if you don't know how to learn any language, just subscribe to my channel. Like, that's everything I do. I tell you like how to learn languages, and I think that's cool. And if you want to see me speaking High Valyrian, there's the video in the description box. And it's a little pathetic, but there's a lot of information about the Valyrian language, so go ahead and watch it, please. This is all for today. I hope you enjoy the new season of Games of Thrones, and I will see you soon. Querosilas.